But if you are on a GLP-1 and you do not have type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you are on Mounjaro, any kind of GLP-1, I don't care what it's called, you are maybe a piece of for that. I think that it's morally wrong.
So if you are suffering from obesity, this drug is for you. There's literally a separate indication for this drug with a separate name for you. So no, you are not a piece of for taking a drug that was indicated for your illness. It is using the same argument and shame tactics that diet culture has used, that, being a bigger body is a negative reflection of your character, to GLP-1 usage. Hi everyone, my name is Mima. I used to be obese. I lost all of the weight through a combination of GLP-1 medication, a whole foods diet, and weightlifting, and now I am training to be an endurance cyclist. So today we are going to be doing another reaction video, but it's not going to be another what I eat in a day on Ozempic video, but rather a discourse video. So for those of you who've never been here before, I have been on a GLP-1 medication since September of 2024. Last year, I have lost 65 pounds on the medication and have completely turned my life around from being sedentary and class 1 obese and having a majority ultra-processed food diet to now having an 80-20 whole foods diet, being an endurance cyclist, and strength training regularly. And I've had an amazing medical team behind me who has helped me through that entire process. Basically, it's been 14, maybe 15 months now that we're in November. So I've been with them, with my obesity doctor, the psychiatrist, and the registered dietitian in the weight management program that I'm in for quite a while now, along with all of my other doctors like my PCP, my OBGYN, and my cardiologist, all of whom have been incredibly supportive of this journey that I'm on. And a big reason why I wanted to start this channel, other than share my endurance cycling training journey, was to also share everything that I've learned from my doctors, from my medical team, about GLP-1 medication, and that includes debunking misinformation and fighting the stigma that we have now seen surrounding GLP-1 medication. So similarly to my what I eat in a day reaction video, I wanted to use this format of content to share some of the misinformation debunking, stigma debunking around GLP-1 medications. I felt that it would be more entertaining rather than me just sitting down and yapping in front of the camera for 20-30 minutes straight. We're really only reacting to one video today, and this was a video that I actually saw a few months ago from Megan Ann, who is a big content creator here on YouTube, and she does a lot of these similar reaction videos. So after seeing her cover that video, I thought it actually might be helpful to do a reaction from a different perspective, like a perspective of someone who has been on GLP-1 medication for a while. So this would be a new, fresher take on this discourse from this particular video. So I did save that video after I watched Megan Ann's reaction of it, but I completely forgot about it because this was a few months ago. And then a few days ago, while I was scrolling through TikTok to find other videos that I could potentially react to, I saw another video that was the complete opposite tone and discourse that reminded me of this video that we're reacting to right now. So I thought that it might actually be good to react to both, starting with this one that Megan Ann covered first, and then the other one that I saw on TikTok, because it's a great contrast, and it kind of puts, the second video kind of puts a lot of things into perspective. So yeah, I thought it would be a great package together as a reaction video for today. Before we get started though, I kind of want to give a disclaimer first, and make something very, very clear, is that I believe no one should ever be shamed for their body, period. And no one should be judged for whatever decisions they're about to make or they're making because of their health, and including whether it is to take GLP-1 medications or not. Bodily autonomy is bodily autonomy, whether you do something or you don't do something. There is no halfway point to that. My goal here isn't to mock anyone specifically, but to really talk honestly about the stigma and the misinformation surrounding the use of this medication, and really what this medication supports in terms of people's health. So with all that said, let's go to the videos.
To say that I'm on Mounjaro. Like, it's this weird taboo thing.
If you know anything about me, or who I am, or what I do, you will not be shocked at my take on this. But if you are on a GLP-1 and you do not have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, or maybe a very specific type of PCOS, and you are on Mounjaro, any kind of GLP-1, I don't care what it's called, you are maybe a piece of for that. I think that it's morally wrong. And I think that, like, choosing to do that when you have a platform, posting about it when you have a platform, is so irresponsible. I don't blame specifically Tana for this. This is like a problem across the board. Everyone's doing it. Everyone is smaller. But it just disappoints me that instead of unpacking our relationship to food, we're just like, no, I'll just go in and not eat for the week. I'll just take a medication that makes it so I cannot eat. I can't believe that, like, no one is discussing the similarities between these medications and what they do, and people using/abusing these medications, and what the correlation to me is like 1-to-1. So to promote these medications, to me, I think that you are promoting. That is what I think, and that is my final say, and that's all.
Okay. That video actually makes me sad and frustrated because it's really the kind of rhetoric that keeps people from making informed and medically and scientifically factual decisions about their health and their body. And just like with this particular creator, for example, I would feel very, very sad as someone who was close to her if this was the kind of rhetoric that she was using and I was someone who really, really needed the kind of help that GLP-1 medications could give her or could give that person, because it just feels incredibly demoralizing to hear that from someone who you would consider close to you, a friend, a loved one. And that's really why I wanted to cover this video specifically, is because of the stigmatizing rhetoric around GLP-1s, right? And I want to start with addressing the misinformation first before commenting on sort of the other pieces of the video. And one, how I know that this particular content creator is misinformed about GLP-1s is because she mentions type 1 diabetes in her opening warning shot, because GLP-1 medications are not for type 1 diabetics. I just want to put that out there, that it could be prescribed off-label, but it very rarely happens, and for the following reasons. Because one, when you have type 1 diabetes, your immune system has essentially destroyed cells in your pancreas that create insulin. So that's why type 1 diabetics actually more often than not are the ones that are injecting insulin straight into their bloodstream, because they no longer have the capacity to create insulin on their own in their own body. So GLP-1s then wouldn't necessarily work, because GLP-1s, or one of the functions of GLP-1s is to stimulate your own pancreas so that it will release insulin, right? And because as a type 1 diabetic, you no longer have insulin producing cells, there's nothing left for a GLP-1 medication to stimulate. So that core part of the drug, that core function of the drug, will not work on a type 1 diabetic. And there have been clinical trials for GLP-1 use for type 1 diabetics, but it unfortunately showed significant risk for hypoglycemia and diabetic ketoacidosis. So it's just not a drug for type 1 diabetics. Another piece of misinformation that I want to address is that GLP-1s are for diabetics only. And that is easy enough to disprove by actually looking at what GLP medications are available out into the world right now, right? You basically have so many names now for GLP-1 medications, so I'm going to break it down so people understand why GLP-1 medications are not just for diabetics anymore. This generation of GLP-1 medication that has been so effective have basically two sort of generic names. One is semaglutide and the other is tirzepatide. Semaglutide brand name is Ozempic and Wegovy. These are the same drugs. The only difference is that Ozempic is indicated for type 2 diabetes, and Wegovy is indicated for weight loss or obesity. They are the same drug made by the same company, but just two different indications. So if you are a diabetic and you go to your doctor and your doctor prescribes you GLP-1 medication, this doctor will prescribe you Ozempic. If you go to a doctor and you are suffering from obesity and you and your doctor talk about being on this medication, this doctor will prescribe you Wegovy. Tirzepatide is the same thing. Mounjaro is what is indicated for diabetes, and zepbound is what is indicated for obesity. So if you are suffering from obesity, this drug is for you. There's literally a separate indication for this drug with a separate name for you. You don't need to have diabetes to be prescribed this drug, okay? I just want to get that out there. This drug is not just for type 2 diabetics. Now, were GLP-1 medications initially developed as glucose-lowering drugs for type 2 diabetes? Yes. The research for GLP-1 medications and what led to them being a medication was through diabetes research. But because of also through more research and more science, researchers and scientists realized that GLP-1s actually affected appetite regulation. And this sort of dynamic showed a biological pathway directly relevant to obesity and not just type 2 diabetes. So through like the continued study of GLP-1s and sort of the development of new generation of GLP-1 medications, scientists essentially found that, GLP-1s don't just necessarily treat diabetes, but they treat metabolic illness. So no, you are not a piece of for taking a drug that was indicated for your illness, and that is obesity. And yes, obesity is a disease, it is an illness. Now, moving on to sort of the reason why I think this video is also harmful, it's because it very clearly reinforces the stigma, not just against GLP-1 medications, but weight loss in general, choosing your health in general, right? And the language that she uses specifically to do this is by correlating the use of GLP-1 medications to an ED. And I'm sorry, I can't say the full term for this because of YouTube stuff, but basically the ED where you don't consume the food and the nutrients that your body needs in order to function well. And why I think that is incredibly problematic and that is wrong is because you cannot correlate a mental health disorder to a biological disease. Obesity is a chronic metabolic disease. It is a biological disease where people with obesity have dysregulated signaling with like hunger and satiety and insulin and dopamine. So what GLP-1s do is actually restore the hormones that regulate your satiety and hunger levels to sort of like normalcy, to our normal level, as opposed to the underconsumption ED, which is characterized by ignoring hunger signals. So for folks who are on GLP-1s, what actually happens is that all of these signals in their body that tells them that they're hungry, that they are full, are actually normalized instead of being chaotic or being always hungry. Are your hunger signals some kind of like a weird thing when you start taking the medication? Yes, because it's just your body getting used to it. That's why there's a titration plan for people who start taking the medication. But if you look at like so many YouTube videos, Reddit posts, TikTok videos, Instagram reels, like they have all like so many people have shared that this medication has actually normalized their eating and their hunger and satiety levels because it's stopped food noise from controlling their day. They're not fighting like this weird ever-present hunger signaling anymore. So they're more present for their loved ones. They have more cognitive space in their brain so that they can make better choices both personally and professionally. This is not deprivation. This is normalcy for some people. That's what GLP-1s give them. And what's really frustrating for me about this video specifically is that she uses the term morally wrong. And I think that is really unhelpful and potentially dangerous because that is ascribing morality to health and weight loss, which is really honestly rich coming from someone who uses the body positivity hashtag for this particular video. You know, the body positivity movement is a movement that grew in response to shame, discrimination, body-based harassment, and bodily autonomy, with, you know, the belief that each person has the right to make their own decisions about their body without shame or without judgment of character, without being told that they're morally wrong for doing XYZ with their bodies. And this video though, this video is doing exactly that. It is using the same argument and shame tactics that diet culture has used, that, you know, being a bigger body is a negative reflection of your character, to GLP-1 usage. Basically saying that, you know, making decisions for the betterment of your health is a negative reflection of your character. Bodily autonomy must cut both ways, or it isn't bodily autonomy. And that includes making the choice to heal your own metabolic dysfunction. With all of that said, I am going to end with this video that I mentioned that actually reminded me of the first video. I think it's a great palate cleanser and kind of like wraps all this up in a little bow.
No, straight up, listen to me. I used to be a body positive, like influencer type person, and I've since sort of like left that space, and I'm now on a GLP-1, and I don't claim to be a body positive influencer in any sense now, because I don't think that would be fair to that community. But here's what I'll say. Being a part of that community absolutely changed everything I believed about my body. And because I was so entrenched in body positivity, it is the only way I allowed myself to then make a decision to go on a GLP-1, because I learned so much about unconditional care and love for my body and what that meant. And because I was able to understand that, I was able to then make a decision about my health that had nothing to do with what the world told me my body should look like. It was about how I felt in my body. So listen, you can say that people who are body neutral and body positive wouldn't ever be on a GLP-1, wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of that movement, because of what it taught me about myself. And I am stronger for it. I am healthier for it. And when I say healthy, I mean mind, body, spirit, soul are aligned for it. Food for thought.
And what else is left to say after that? I would love to hear your thoughts about the first video in particular, but also the second video. Let me know down in the comments section below. And I'm also on Instagram. I'm going to put my handle up here. Happy to answer any of your questions. My DMs are open, especially if you are on your GLP-1 journey and you have questions, you have concerns, and you just want some inspiration or clues as to what you should be doing next. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, for spending your precious time with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy riding.